Hello everyone and welcome to the Disability Forum meeting. Just a quick introduction. If anyone wants to join the meeting and join the Zoom, there is a link on our page, or if you are watching the live stream. We also kindly have MJ here, who is a level 6 BSL, and she's kindly stepped in very last minute to try and obviously support the event to be as accessible as possible. And I'm going to pass over to Sophie as well, who's going to host and chair the forum meeting and the discussions with people. So any comments as well, if you'd like to leave them on the Facebook, I will be monitoring that and sending them in the live chat in Zoom as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sophie Cornell. I'm the CEO of Centre for Independent Living Kent, which is a disabled persons user-led organisation based in Kent, covering Kent and Medway. I'm also the chair of the Kent-wide Physical Disability Forum, which is why I'm here today. So we are a forum of disabled people who we always welcome new disabled people who wish to come and join us and talk about the events that are important to them and the issues and concerns that they might have. So we are basically, we want to be the voice of disabled people in Kent, highlighting the issues to the statutory services, so the local authorities, the town and city councils, and also the NHS. So it's really important that we hear from all of you about what the issues are that you're experiencing. You'll probably find that lots of us share the same experiences that you have. But it gives weight and a real clear mandate for us to take the issues forward. If I can just introduce a couple of other people on the call. We've got Andrew, if you'd like to say hi, Andrew.
Hello, I'm Andrew Robertson. I'm the Vice Chair of the Physical Disability Forum. I'm relatively new to the forum prior to lockdown, going back about 18 months, and I kind of stumbled across the meeting, and I remember being very impressed with the number of like-minded people in the room, and the fact that the forum was able to organise sort of key decision makers, be it housing, from housing associations, or people from the CCG or wheelchair services, and they would come to these physical disability forum meetings to hear from the disabled community. And it was very interesting because, well, it was a lot of problems that needed to be brought to account for, and thought this is an excellent place to have a voice. Now, obviously, things have been very different now that we're all online, and it's very interesting to see whether or not there's the same issues across the country on a wider scale. So very much looking forward to getting to know you today and finding out what the common issues are.
Thank you. And Adam, maybe you can say hi.
Hi, afternoon. My name's Adam Littlefield. I'm the Forums Manager at EK360, formerly known as Engaging Kent, and this is one of the forums that we support. So I tend to attend the physical disability forums just to provide admin support and take notes. So I'll be doing that today, Sophie, don't worry, I'll keep an answer.
Thank you. There aren't that many people on the call, and I think it would be really useful if we knew who you all are and also whereabouts you're from, so geographically, and also if you're involved in any particular organisations. We know Jade and Karen from Rise, and I think that you've probably all heard from them over the last few hours because they're giving technical help and support. But maybe if we could ask, sorry, I'm just looking at who's on the call. Access Your Life. Sorry, I'm not sure your name.
Sorry, it's Felix.
Sorry, thanks, Felix.
Sorry. So no, I'm Felix, I'm Director of Access Your Life. In simple terms, it aspires to be the TripAdvisor of the mobility industry. So what we do is we have a website where we share disabled people's views on reviews and experiences of their disability with using different products, so that we help other people make that process easier so everyone can achieve a brighter future.
Sorry, we're struggling to hear you.
Probably because my fans are all on, keep my laptop cool. In this hot weather in a hot room, my laptop's going to explode. So I'll start again. So my name is Felix. I'm Director of Access Your Life. In simple terms, it aspires to be the TripAdvisor of medical products. So what we do is we share, so we get reviews from disabled people and their experiences in a blog form. We've got a secondhand rehoming page. But in simple terms, it's about getting disabled people where they want to in life by sharing those that have been through the struggles and sharing that knowledge so that everyone can achieve a brighter future.
Thank you. Do you have a disability yourself?
So I'm dyslexic.
Right, okay.
But I built the company around my disabled girlfriend who has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
Right, okay.
All the complications that come with that.
Absolutely. And whereabouts geographically are you located?
So I grew up in Kent, but I've been working out through lockdown through Newcastle in the top of the country. So I'm always up and down the M1, let's put it that way. So
okay, well, thank you ever so much for coming along. And also we've got Andy Sutherland.
That's more than close enough, Sophie. Thank you. Pleasure to be with everyone. I'm not that far from you, Sophie. I don't think. I'm based in Maidstone. Okay. So a man of Kent, and I'm also a director of a business called iTrust Assurance, that is all about promoting healthy speak-up cultures in organisations. And I have a passion really for helping organisations understand the relationship between healthy employee culture and business performance. My own background is brand marketing and public relations. I had the great privilege of working as part of Sebco's London 2012 Olympic and Paralympic team. And I became a real advocate of everything you guys stand for by my close proximity to Paralympians, who are the most able-bodied people that I've ever met in my life. So whilst I'm not physically disabled myself or have any kind of disability, I have a huge empathy for those that do and how they just get on with their life. So it's because of that that iTrust has a real energy around educating people, around the ability of these people, and making sure that colleagues, employees that welcome those with any kind of disability do so in a way that makes them feel welcomed, promotes a sense of belonging, and importantly for businesses to make them understand that if that's the case, their business will thrive, it will grow, it will deliver better revenues and profits. And then, of course, you need the means by which you can allow people to speak anonymously about wrongdoing. I don't really like the language of whistleblowing because it immediately gets your mind to language such as grassing, snitching, all of these negative connotations. But iTrust does have a real mission around enabling the anonymous exposure of wrongdoing. And that might be bullying in the workplace. It might be discrimination against those that are physically disabled. Therefore, iTrust at its heart has an app that is being promoted to many companies around the country that allows for this anonymous exposure of wrongdoing, just in the bold mission of promoting healthy speak up cultures, so businesses understand the advantages of having these healthy cultures rather than having something above their door that says this is a grass, snitch, whistleblowing environment. Not the case. So we're here to promote the healthy side of speaking up. And we think that disability is a really strong area for us to explore, of course, in partnership with you guys. So it's a pleasure to be here today and for me to listen and learn.
Thank you for coming along. And if you'd like to catch up with me offline sometime, then please do make contact. And yes, I'm in Maidstone too.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you. And then we've got Benny Shakes. Hi.
Hi, yeah, my name is Benny Shakes. I'm a comedian, but over lockdown, I set up a podcast called Benny Shakes Things Up, where we interview disabled artists all around the world and find out their issues dealing with their disability, what what issues and how we can all come together to overcome these issues. So now we've got the funding and we are publishing a book next year all about it, so we can send it to promoters to say, these are the issues, how can we work with you to bring more disabled people into comedy, music and things like that. And also me, and I'll let Jamie tell you, Jamie helps me do a disability awareness game show called Below the Belt, where we take comedians and give them an experience of being disabled. So yeah, that's me.
Thanks ever so much for coming. And whereabouts are you geographically?
Nottingham.
Excellent, good. Thanks ever so much for coming along. Who else? No, sorry. Centre of Ed Support, Rhonda.
Hi there. My name's Rhonda. I work with Central Bed. We're based in Ashford in Kent. So we are bespoke medical bed manufacturers. Everything's designed and made in our factory in Ashford in Kent. We supply up and down the whole country, and also we have supplied internationally as well. Our product range spans from paediatric to bariatric, includes cots and beds, as well as leg lifters and pillow lifters. I've joined today. Jade invited me to come along just to really take part. Obviously, as a business, we're constantly trying to make sure that, you know, we're agile and listen to what our customers need. So it was just really to come and listen and share the experience with everybody today.
That's great. Thanks ever so much for coming. And then, sorry, I'm just trying to look down my list.
Sophie, just really quickly, MJ, did you want me to swap you over? Because Natty's here now because she was late. It's just 2 seconds, so I can just transfer you across. Is that okay? Yeah? Great, okay. I'm just sorry to interrupt 2 seconds. I'm just going to bring her over. And I will introduce Nettie as well. So Nettie is a trainee BSL interpreter, purple badge holder as well, and has obviously very kindly offered to both support us in the forum and the comedy evening later on as well. So I'll mute myself and back to you, Rhonda and Sophie.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we've got Emma Sullivan. Is Emma on the call?
I think Emma, did you want me to put Jamie on for you, or did you want
Hang on.
Emma's Jamie's partner, so they usually have one mic between them. It's just working out which one's the one that's working. So.
I'm just having a technical issue with some headphones.
Do you want me to bring Jamie over?
Well, Jamie's here, and
yeah.
He's just you want your joystick? Yeah. We just the headphones went down at the last minute, but I think we can manage without headphones. There's no reason why we need them, is there? So Jamie can go first. Yes. Me go first. Okay, I'm Emma Sullivan. I'm here to support Jamie, and that's probably it, really. I'm just here to support Jamie. It's nice to see everyone.
Thank you. Hi, Jamie.
I'll say, so Jamie will be performing later on at the comedy evening. So yeah, I asked Jamie and Emma to come along as well, because just to obviously create more awareness and sharing and stuff. So they're very active with the services they provide, and in their own region.
And what region is that?
Emma?
Sorry, now the headphones start making a funny noise. Do you want to read that? Right, so now we're having another technical issue. Jamie uses a communication device and we've got a sound issue. So shall I read it for you? It says, I'm Jamie Priest. I'm the service user representative at Barnsley Hospital Assistive Technology Department. That's one of his hats. He's got quite a few hats. He says he gives a hand to other communication device users and users of assistive technology, and that's you, yeah. And he's going to be doing a talk later and also performing in the comedy. So yeah, lovely.
Emma, you're near Doncaster, aren't you? Is that right?
Right, we're near Rotherham. Yeah,
Rotherham.
Yorkshire.
Excellent. Thank you ever so much for coming along to the call, and look forward to listening to your comedy later. And then we've got Stephen Fletcher.
Hi there. So my name's Steve. I'm a disability employment advisor for Maidstone Job Centre. I'm one of about 30 or 40 of us now. Every job centre should have 2 to 3 of us now. We've taken a lot more on board with obviously with the influx due to coronavirus. In fact, the job centres have grown exponentially as a result of all this. Essentially, us disability employment advisors act as a support for frontline staff. So we kind of bridge the gap between the frontline work coaches who see customers on a face-to-face or over the phone now, and as well as digital appointments, between those guys, as well as the support that's available in the local community. So we come to events like this, we get to meet all you lovely people, and then we can bring your services and connect those to our customers that may need that extra support. I guess in a nutshell, that's kind of what we do. We also promote various other government initiatives such as the Disability Confidence Scheme, Access to Work, and other bits and bobs, but primarily that we're there to support the frontline staff and connect those with with what support's available.
Excellent, thank you. And then we've got
Andrew as well. We haven't said, have we? Has Andrew said hello on this one? I know you've been on the other meetings, Andrew, but I don't know if you've been introduced or not.
Yep. Sorry,
you have. Sorry, apologies.
I thought so. And Paul Totman.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm extremely new to the team, about a week. I've been working with the company. I've got 25 years experience of working with medical equipment, ranging from access equipment and moving and handling, power chairs, scooters, all that kind of stuff. So really just working with companies who looking for solutions for a range of different issues. So just bringing some of that knowledge into the company, and hopefully that'll help this sort of event.
Thank you. And are you based in Essex?
No, I'm not. I'm actually, I think I'm probably the furthest north that you've got on the panel today. I'm based in Scotland, so yeah.
The accent should have given it away.
Yeah, I'm I'm actually Welsh, so probably not. I've been here for 30 years, but yes, I'm in Scotland.
Okay, thanks so much.
Okay.
Have I missed anybody out? No? Okay, so the reason for this forum happening today is we've had 2 already this morning. It's basically we want to reach out and find out whether the issues and things that people in Kent are experiencing are unique to Kent, or whether actually these are the problems and concerns and issues that people all over the country are experiencing. And in which case, can we come together in some way to create a really strong, unified voice that will take issues that we're facing and challenges, and maybe get them heard on sort of a national level and by the people who can make a real difference. So we have in the mornings sessions talked about some of the various issues that people have. One of them is around transport, around blue badges, around getting around and accessibility of our communities. Is that something that people experience problems with wherever you might be? One issue that I've raised is that with the remit for blue badges being extended, so now more and more people are eligible for a blue badge. That's great. However, they haven't increased the number of blue badge bays. So actually there's more of us now all fighting for the same parking bays. With COVID, there has been some complications to this, because obviously a lot of us have either been shielding or isolating for a long period of time. So it hasn't perhaps been as obvious, but also during COVID, sometimes with social distancing requirements, and also having to restaurants and cafes and things having to be external, they've been taking up space on the pavements and spilling over onto the roads and parking spaces that we have had access to pre-COVID. Just wondering if anyone else has experienced issues with that.
People may have to unmute, and then when I can hear who's talking, I will spotlight you. So yeah,
We have Felix and Benny.
Okay, sorry, Felix, do you want to?
So our users have mentioned those things that you've said, particularly the pavements and not being able. The position we had was in the distancing, them using the disabled bays to do the queues, because they're at the front. They'd go and put the queues through, and then there are no disabled bays for even the use of. So they were the two biggest complaints our users kept mentioning. But yeah, no, having everyone outside at the moment, and also the issue with everyone driving again and avoiding public transport, the amount of pavements that are blocked by cars, and people really forget that by parking their car half on the pavement and half on the road, that they're blocking people with wheelchairs. Mm-hmm. So they would be the three main points around travel. Like, a lot of our users are also scared of using public transport because of the dangers and being with people. Yet WAVs aren't exactly the cheapest things in the world either. So I would counter all of those things from our users.
Yeah. So people are nervous to use public transport due to the virus, but then even in the best of times pre-COVID, the amount of accessible spaces on buses is very limited. I don't know if people have experienced buses driving straight past them because they already have a wheelchair user on board.
Or a buggy that can be moved.
A buggy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we've experienced all of that.
Thank you. And I believe somebody else was wanting to comment.
Yeah. Just to say, yes, over the pandemic, I've noticed that the disabled parking, everyone's parking there without a badge, and it's oh, it's fine, disabled people are locked in their houses. No, we're not. Some of us have to still work and go shopping. So it's like, come on, guys. You've got all the other spaces. Please respect us.
Absolutely.
And, yeah. And with buses, again, pushchairs get priority over wheelchairs, and it's like, come on, pushchairs can fold away, you know. So yeah, that's what, yeah.
Absolutely. Which sounds to me like it's a real sort of education issue. It's making people aware that actually we're out there and we're trying to live a life. A lot of us, as you say, are working and trying to get by just like everybody else. And we are out there still, and we do need the access and the support in order to run our lives also.
Yeah.
Anyone got any more comments?
Sophie, I've got my hand up, but I don't want
sorry.
to.
I was going to
That's
say,
right.
I've spotlighted everyone that's got their hand up, so I don't know how to do Sophie. So that Jamie was first, his hand was up, then it was Andy, then it was Andrew. So I've tried to do it in order. I don't know if you can see it in that order.
Okay.
After you, Jamie.
You're muted, Jamie, I think, or maybe Emma's muted. I'm not sure which one you're coming from.
We're having
Oh. Okay, can we maybe come on to Andy and then come straight back to you, Jamie? So Andy Sutherland.
Sure thing. I wanted to jump on what Benny was saying, Sophie, actually, because Jade, who was kind enough to invite me into the forum, we had a good conversation last week on this very issue about blue badge holders, bays, the abuse of bays, what Benny was talking about. So rather than a comment, I actually have a question, because I'm here to learn as much as anything else. If I'm a director of a business that is all about speaking up, what are the measures in place at the moment for either disabled people to speak up if they see a non-blue badge car parked in a bay, or, as importantly, what are the measures in place for able-bodied people that see a car without a blue badge parking in a bay to speak up? Is there a reporting mechanism? And if so, what is that mechanism? And what is the recourse on individuals that have incorrectly parked in blue bays?
I think that scorning at people, trying to catch their eye and give them disappointing looks, that's usually my go-to. But also it depends where it is. So if it's in a particular shop car park, I don't know, Tesco's or wherever, then reporting it to the shop and hoping that they will try and police it. But I think it's incredibly difficult to police. And it isn't just the blue badge and parking that is difficult to police. There are rules out there. I mean, you're not supposed to park on pavements, but people still do. And what's done to police that? Nothing. And also, like when buildings are refurbished, for example, a pub or something, then they're supposed to be putting in measures to support disabled people to use those premises, but often those refurbishments happen and they still don't put in the accessible toilet or whatever. So what's being done to police anything? I think the onus is down to the disabled people to report it, but then it's who to report it to. Is it the brewery in the case of a pub, or is it the local council? Or I don't think it's clear who we are supposed to be reporting it to. So whilst the forum and also my organisation, Centre for Independent Living Kent, can write a strongly worded letter, we've got no power to make them do anything. So I think it's we need to understand what we should and can do and what the correct panel should be. Does anyone want to join in there? I expect Andrew Robertson probably has something to add.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, and I started to use an orange badge. So prior to the blue badge scheme, in the early 2000s, the badge was coloured orange, and at the time, having a muscle wasting disease at the age of 19, I found I couldn't walk very far, so I would tend to use the orange badges, and I'd have lots of people scorn at me and look at me because I looked like a normal student, just perhaps a bit lazy. Didn't use a walking stick, I was too embarrassed. And I used to hate, in fact, occasionally, if there were other disabled people around the area, I'd drive off. I wouldn't park there because not that I didn't want to have an argument, I felt embarrassed. And there's also, there's lots of hidden disability kind of arguments. It's very, very difficult. And I've been in the situation where I've wanted to challenge someone, but you don't know their circumstance and their background. And yeah, often a disapproving look is probably the best thing, Sophie. I think you did right. I've taken to Twitter if it's a car park, so for example, Waitrose, and I've seen their delivery vans parked in the disabled bay. I'll take a picture and I'll send it off to their Twitter account, because there's no excuse for that, not if it's their own delivery vehicles. But there are a number of blue badge related Twitter accounts that do spend their life sharing pictures and naming and shaming. And I think it's such a difficult, you almost want to rely on people doing the right thing. And that doesn't happen very often.
If I may say, Sophie, I think you summarised it well in describing this as an education campaign, because it's very easy to go after the symptom in these stories rather than address the cause. And I think what I'm hearing from you guys is there are multiple ways to report, but there is very little confidence that once reported or once sent to a social media account, and it might appear on social media, that there is really no recourse. So there is absolutely something that iTrust and other companies such as iTrust can do as a means of positive intervention to make sure that there is a reporting procedure that has consequence. And I've got some thoughts on that, and it's not appropriate to take up all of this debate with this issue because there are many, but certainly offline, I'd love to pick this up, Sophie, with you, because the CEO of iTrust is from Kent Police and has spent 25 years in informant handling and counter-terrorism. He knows a thing or two about reporting wrongdoing. So I do think that there are some remedies here, and we can rely on technology and embrace IT as part of the solution. That's our opinion, but we're here to absorb all feedback, which is why I'm here today.
Absolutely. Maybe I can set up a meeting with you and Andrew, and we can have a chat about it and see where we go from there. If we want to bring it to another future forum, then we can absolutely do that. Okay.
Sure.
Thank you. So Jamie, how are your technical issues?
Right, can you hear me? Can everyone? Oh, hang on.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Emma, you're fine.
We're on my microphone. So Jamie says he's got two things.
Yeah.
One. Bosses. Okay, the first is bosses. How you feel? How Jamie feels is that if he's at the bus stop and the bus pulls up and there's pushchairs in the disabled space, he doesn't have the heart to kick any or to kick up a fuss. You don't know if the child is disabled or if the mum is disabled or if there's an issue. Sometimes, usually the drivers will ask, won't they, nowadays, if they will follow the pushchair, but they won't. Jamie doesn't like it. You're happy? Jamie says he's usually happy to wait. Before the pandemic, Jamie used to do a lot of travelling on the public transport and on his own, and didn't really want to get. I mean, there was one situation we were together, and we had a disagreement. A lady with a pushchair, she had a disagreement with Jamie. She was trying to make him move out of the disabled space. It was awful, and she banged us with her pushchair. It was Jamie doesn't, as a vulnerable person, doesn't want to engage in any altercations on his own, and obviously he says he can't speak clearly. Even with his device, it's hard under pressure to challenge people. lots of times people do move though, don't they? That's how you see it from your viewpoint. That's how he sees it from his viewpoint. He says he might be wrong, but it's an opinion. You can't be wrong.
Thank you.
One more thing.
Yeah.
A big problem. Taxis. So the 3 places we try to get taxis, or at least before the pandemic, were Rotherham, Doncaster and Sheffield. Rotherham, and Barnsley as well. Yeah, Barnsley as well. Rotherham, there are a few disabled taxis, but they're often not available, especially not after 5. Doncaster, there's quite a lot of taxis, and they seem to have they're all supposedly wheelchair accessible, and the same with Sheffield, there's a lot of disabled access taxis, but so they often have a multitude of reasons why Jamie can't get in their particular taxi, such as your wheelchair is too big, it's too heavy, it's not a wheelchair, it's a mobility scooter, you're going to break the ramp, my ramp's broken, it's not this taxi, you should get the next one. I've got a bad back, I've got a medical certificate. I mean, this is not just once, this is every single week for forever. Sometimes we've been stranded, and you know, you just see once one refuses, then it's like they all refuse. We could have videoed this and made awful videos of. Yeah, it's a big issue.
Absolutely. I know in Kent we have issues with that. A lot of the accessible taxis, particularly during school term time,
that's what
are being used for school runs.
Yeah. Jamie experienced that at our event, Sophie. He couldn't get a taxi from our event. Okay. We tried to call the local accessible taxis, and they were all hired for the school runs, and we had to borrow a folding chair from somebody's stand so we could get him into a standard taxi. So yeah, and we tried to pre-book this as well.
James saying he has to sometimes have to get a taxi from Doncaster to come to Rotherham to pick us up, or him up, to go out to Barnsley. So then there's an extra, sometimes £20 on top of the fare if it's a meeting. Can get it back sometimes, but it's yeah, very, very difficult.
Yeah. It certainly sounds like it's a universal problem that we're experiencing then, and it's not just specific to Kent. So I don't know whether I should be pleased about that or not. Yeah, so transport was one, housing was another issue that we've been talking about today. Accessible housing, so either on the private rental market or social housing, trying to find suitable accommodation. There's an awful lot of people in Kent living in accommodation which isn't working for them, which prevents them from getting out and about and leading the life they want. So I don't know if that's something people have experienced. Andy? Sorry.
It's because you've got your hand up, Andy. That's why. So I'll bring Felix back.
The legacy hand. Okay, so I've got hands up from Access Your Life. Sorry, yeah. Nettie.
Nettie was translating. That's all. Hands up.
Oh,
she was doing
sorry. Sorry. Okay. Yes, Felix. Sorry.
So yeah, no, I've been through this process.
Actually, I've got time for that meeting today, also.
Trying to find a accessible bungalow for Lauren and I to live in. Was a horrific experience.
And I did say to her when she came in.
Sorry, somebody I think doesn't. Okay, I think that might be it now.
Sorry, so yeah, no. So awful experience. So I took the approach of just taking Lauren's mum everywhere, and you should see the looks that we got when we're testing like corridors and weird things like that. But yeah, the people thought we were the couple instead, so that was fun. basically there is just not enough accessible housing. A lot of our audience mentioned that too. It's like anywhere you go, everywhere in the country, there doesn't seem to be enough. And also, it just seems that when we build houses, there's so many ways and products now that can be used by able-bodied people and disabled people, and there's no excuse, no extra cost really on most of these building plots. Could they change things? And so there's that. And then I think the most appalling thing is, when we looked at it, Lauren couldn't actually be a full-time girlfriend with me. She was only allowed to stay 3 nights a week. Otherwise, it affected her benefit. And yet, if she lives with her parents, she gets all of it. And I think that's one of the other biggest issues, is the sense that if you do get an opportunity as a disabled person as to have a relationship, I was then supposed to take the responsibility of all of her costs because I was in full-time employment. So I think that's another huge barrier for people with disabilities. So I think the housing could be done a lot about, very simply and easily, with some nice, easy conversations. And yeah, I think that's the biggest issue I've noticed, is that disability benefits can be removed if they move in or live with a partner.
Thank you. Something I noticed from what you were just saying, and it came up this morning as well, is our instant reaction when we're trying to justify why changes should happen. We instantly say, well, actually, it would benefit older people, mothers with pushchairs, and all the rest of it, as if the fact that it would improve disabled people's lives isn't justification enough, that we have to say, actually, it would improve the lives of all sorts of other people at the same time, to justify why they should do the work, as if we're not important enough to make things accessible for us. It's just something I've noticed that we all do, and I'm guilty of it as much as anyone. I try and say, well, if you do that, it's not just disabled people who benefit, there's a whole load of other people who would too. And I just feel it's a shame that we feel we have to do that.
I think as a society, we need to change. I hate it when people talk to me and not to Lauren. Like I always say, look, I'm the donkey, I just carry the stuff, she's the intelligent one. As in, like, talk to her, like, it really winds me up. And I think as a society, you need to remember that even if someone can't verbally speak very well, they can still have an amazing brain there and they can still communicate. It's about giving them the time. And if you give a disabled person the time to talk, your life will be changed. I mean, these are magical people with unbelievable knowledge, commercially, physically, experience-wise and everything. So yeah, no, like, I just want to build more of a team and have more disabled people on it, because also I think disabled people on a whole are the best problem solvers. They deal with challenges every day of the week. And yeah, if you present an issue or something, a disabled person will come up with far more solutions than anyone else.
Yeah, thank you. Betty?
Yeah, I'm just highlighting that. I've got cerebral palsy. I've been in a few council bungalows, shall we say, disabled bungalows, which they weren't disabled bungalows. The doors were too narrow. Okay, I'm not in a wheelchair, but some of my partners were in wheelchairs and they couldn't come to my house. So I've decided to rent private, and that was a challenge, but now my landlord's made my flat disabled friendly. My good old friend Mark Buckwood says we shouldn't adapt, the world around us should adapt. We're in 2021 now. Build bungalows, not houses. A lot of us are living longer and we'll need bungalows, not houses, bungalows. So get rid of houses and build more bungalows, I believe. So
Forever homes.
Yeah, forever homes. Yeah.
Absolutely, thank you. Adam, have you also got your hand up?
Yeah, I have. I think what's evident to me is that there are issues that either get raised on a very local level or on a very personal level, but it very rarely then gets cumulatively combined to mean that things are shown to be that societal issue, because people are referencing stuff that I know Sophie has written papers about, that, you know, as someone who isn't disabled, I was educated when I first read them, but then I went around to the rest of my colleagues and said, can we read this so that we don't get caught out? Because we should know this anyway as human beings. And there's these basic things that should be shared. But then also there's a lot of the stuff around blue badges will end up getting stuck at a local district council level, and the district council will either do something or they won't, and then not much will happen. And it feels like, you know, this initial conversation is a big opportunity to start looking at how we accumulate some of the lived experience a bit more aggressively, is the wrong word, but we get to a point where we can combine it and actually start pushing for a little bit more social change. And I referenced this morning, but I work a lot in mental health forums, and things are moving there where it doesn't matter what level of strategic kind of rollout is happening with a new service. They make sure that people with mental health conditions are involved. So they make sure people are involved in the planning, they make sure people are involved in the delivery. And it's like, we need to start building evidence so that we can push for that in all this stuff as well. Because back to your points about the housing, Felix, surely if you can explain how many people are in need of housing that is accessible, and then you see the number of actually accessible housing, I mean, who in their right mind is going to be comfortable with that if we keep banging on about the disparity between the two? Like, I just think, yeah, it feels like there's opportunity there. And I guess my question is, how do we make sure that this conversation doesn't happen here and then stop? Because we're certainly challenged in how much time we all have, because we're all voluntary organisations, certainly speaking from Kent, you know, so we need to make sure that we're collating that information somewhere. And also we need to make sure that it's done in a way where people trust it, because I know that people are concerned about reporting back and then their care plans being affected. And that there has to be a way that you've got a system where you take people's feedback and then you work on it in a way that doesn't affect them personally. Sorry, is that, I've just ranted, but
No,
you get my vibe.
I think I'm concerned that there's a few more hands up. So if I can just go through the hands that are up, and people can make their comment, and then I'm just going to sort of summarize what I'm taking from this, and maybe we can agree on and move forward. So I can see Stephen Fletcher. I think you've got your hand up.
Yeah, that's right. Just to sort of piggyback on what Adam said about when we look at things, you know, beyond the local level. When we look at things locally, we then get the situation where you have sort of the postcode lottery, where, you know, X council will have funding for, you know, a certain project. So you may find there's, you know, more access to mental health support or to accessible housing in one area, but you only have to move 5 minutes down the road. You cross, you know, an invisible line, you then suddenly belong to another council and there's nothing there. And you get this real kind of, well, hang on, Dave down the road can get all this help, but I can't get anything. How does that make sense? And it can be very frustrating for people, which I see that on a day-to-day basis when I speak to my colleagues in other towns and they go, oh, we've got all these wonderful things. You're like, brilliant, I don't have that. And it just seems to be no rhyme or reason. It just comes down to funding.
Yeah. Thank you. Absolutely good point. Jamie, I see your hands up again.
It says 2 things.
Yeah.
You want to say to Benny? No, to oh dear. Access Your Life. I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. Sorry. About what you said.
It's Felix. Yeah.
Felix, thank you. I can't run my life without people who are not disabled. Without people who are not disabled. I was in the next room, so I might have missed the point he's commenting on. What I think Walk to work with disabled people. A lot of people work thinking, work without thinking about disabled people. I'm sorry I missed your point earlier, but think they've got it right. For instance, Barnsley Hospital, where Jamie 3 years ago when he started at Barnsley. Anything about that? Oh, okay. I know. So Jamie works with speech therapists and occupational therapists in terms of helping people with their vocabulary and their devices and how they, their opportunities to communicate. And 3 years ago, they would be very loath to put any content on people's devices relating to sex and relationships. So now Jamie has really pushed them to include content, and now there's a working group for diversity and inclusion and everything, all types of sexuality, and people are now there's more possibility to it's important to get users, so service users or whatever, clients, customers involved in the process. Yeah, and that's just down to Jamie being part of the department. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you've made some really excellent progress.
I totally agree with what Jamie just said there. I've had conversations with disabled people that have come up and asked me quite personal questions, but my mum was a sexual health nurse, so nothing's off the limit for me. Or I had a girl with CP come up and ask, she can ask you a personal question. She said, is sex with Lauren different and do I enjoy it? And my response was, no, like sex with any person is different because everyone has likes and dislikes. And also, do you think I'd be with her 7 years later if it wasn't any good? At which point she burst out laughing. So I do think disability and sex needs to be talked about, because disabled people are just as sexually active and want to be just as sexually active as any able-bodied person and should have the right to it. And I think, and if there are anyone out there that wants to start another website, I'd love to call it A Really Good Sex Life, and we'll do it. So there's that point. Back to the housing and stuff. Actually, I've lost my thought on that. That changed the topic. But what was the other thing I was going to say? I've lost it. I've lost my thought. But yeah, no, Jamie's right. That is an issue that we. Oh no. For housing, it's simple. Every council, every funding party needs to have a wheelchair user on the board. It's that simple, because it'll change the attitude. You have a disabled person there that contributes to that board. They're not going to make the silly mistakes.
On the board and in the workforce, I might add.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got this one. Lots.
On every board, there should be
a disabled representation. Everyone.
Representation, and the other thing is we need to hit it where they care about, and that's money. Because if you said you don't have to move disabled people after house, we can put in the right lift here, and that makes that house accessible, and things like that. Buying a wheelchair that raised up, you wouldn't then have to adapt the full kitchen. A disabled person could use the kitchen, the rest of his family, his partner, or whatever. And the point is, it's about, I'd like to use my data research and all my reviews to create data to show, well, this wheelchair gives a better quality of life. Why does it give a better quality of life? So that council, okay, you spend £2,000 more to buy that wheelchair, but then you're not adapting the whole of the kitchen because they can access it. And for me, it's that educational process of the products exist already. Why don't we use the data and the way to do it beneficially? and we have to hit councils where they care about, and that's cost.
Absolutely.
And we can do that.
Which
Jamie says, you know what makes him laugh? Going in a hotel with me, and we've booked a double room, and they say, it's a double. And we're like, yes, thank you. And saying, but, and it does make us laugh. And when people say anything about the sex side of things, well, we say, well, we have produced 2 children, so we've been together 20 years as well, so yeah, it's very interesting though, because it's a subject people are very nervous. They say, oh, but you know, as if mentioning sex might offend a disabled person, because obviously they're forbidden from even thinking about it. You know, it should be in the general conversation, really, shouldn't it? In the dialogue.
It's that thing in the 90s when I started work, the law said every employer must employ 1 or 2 disabled people. But nowadays they get around it by saying, oh, you was really good, but someone else has got a bit more experience, and it's like, yeah, okay, whatever. So,
or they cheat and give it to someone like me that has dyslexia, and that then hits the quota, and it shouldn't. Like,
yeah, that's what I was actually gonna. I was just gonna add on that as well. Like we've spoke about this, Felix, before, where we've actually said that for employment and giving opportunities to people with disabilities, there's not easily a way that, I mean, we're not allowed to put an ad out there and say that we obviously want to hire people with disabilities and stuff to give them the opportunity, because you can't just openly just put that ad out there as well. So there's like, how do you take that approach if you want to be more accessible and inclusive as an employer, for example? Because obviously there'll be companies watching this and stuff as well, and I guess, how do you take that approach? Does anyone have any information on that? I think that's
through the Kickstarter experience, I was told that I wasn't allowed to actively ask for people with disability experience whether or not they're a carer, or like, I don't want an able-bodied person on my team because they can't deal with the questions or help my users. Like, the whole point of what we do is to make accessible work for everyone to be part of it. Like, I built this around my disabled girlfriend because I watched her spend hours a day helping people all over the world with her condition. And it is madness that we can't actively go, no, disabled people have a unique set of skills, and actively we want to employ those because they've got the ability to be better at this job than anyone else that I've met.
I think that there's probably ways around it. I suspect it's about getting advice about the legalities, and I expect Stephen Fletcher might be able to, from the job centre, give us some pointers as to how we can specifically recruit disabled people.
Yeah, so somebody mentioned about, you know, how do people as employers let other people know that they're more, you know, open-minded to employing people with, you know, disabilities or health conditions, things like that. And one of the initiatives that I promote along with our employer advisors is the Disability Confidence Scheme, which is, it replaced, I don't know if anyone remembers the old 2-tick scheme, but in essence, it's a scheme, a voluntary scheme that employers can sign up to, which they get sort of the recognition. They can have little, you know, the badge and stuff and a banner they can put on the website just to let people know who are maybe looking at their vacancies that they have pledged to be more considerate in how they recruit. There's 3 sort of levels to that. Level 1 is essentially just to comply with the 2010 Equality Act, and that, you know, they're willing to consider, you know, adjustments that can allowing people with health conditions or disabilities to compete on a sort of more level playing field. But beyond that, as you go through the levels, it does become requirements to actually be actively recruiting people who, you know, do meet you know, the criteria of being, you know, disabled. But yeah, there is that scheme in place. In regards to the legality of, you know, specifying whether or not somebody has a health condition, there are some exceptions to the Equality Act. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to try and direct you on that directly, but there are circumstances in which you can specify, and if that is something that's sort of required of the role, then you can break away from the Equality Act in certain circumstances. So there might be, if you are an employer looking to advertise and are specifically looking at recruiting people who are disabled, you may want to get some legal advice on that. But there are cases in which you can deviate from the Equality Act and specify certain people.
I was going to ask Stephen as well, is that because obviously the thing is when you do it through the job centre as well, and I do mean this in the most respectful way, but because you have people that obviously actively are maybe not looking for work and just applying on a process of obviously meeting the standard, you have to filter through all of that to go through the job centre. Is there a agency that obviously deliberately recruits people from different backgrounds and stuff? So are we aware of anything like that?
There is a recruitment site called Even Break, which is a recruitment site for disabled people. So that is another great option. And in fact, my biggest criticism of Even Break is the lack of vacancies. So the more people that are using that, the better a site it can be. So yeah, I would encourage employers to look at that as well. So yeah, and yeah, that is the difficulty when you're engaging with the job centre. Is unfortunately there is sort of a, depending on what benefit somebody's on and what sort of section of benefit, there are some people who are sort of being, shall we say, encouraged to look for work and maybe aren't quite so keen as others. So you do get that disparity. Whereas if you're going through something like Even Break, everyone who's applying is applying because they want to be applying usually. So I do take your point there that there can be people who are sort of being strong-armed into it, but maybe they don't want to. But again, there are voluntary schemes that we run as well, where people have to sort of want to be engaged with. So we have things like the intensive personalised employment support and things. So we do pick out people with health conditions who really want to work and match them up with other things as well. Because there are benefits where people are not required to look for work, but I still provide support for those people if they decide that yes, whilst my health condition is a significant barrier to working and I have no legal obligation to be looking for work, I still want to work, and we're more than happy to work with those people, and we do refer into these schemes as well.
Thank you. That's really helpful. I'm very conscious of the time because this was supposed to finish 6 minutes ago. Sorry, bad sharing, I've overrun. But the conversation has been so good and so interesting that I'm reluctant to bring it to a close. But I would just remind you, and I know Adam has put in the chat, that we would love to involve you in the future of the Kent Forum. And so if you would like us to keep in touch with you in that way through the forum, please do give us your contact details and email address, and we can add you to our mailing list. And also, if you would like to carry on this conversation, perhaps with me or anybody else, then please do make contact with me. I can put my contact details in the chat, and I would be very happy to start a meeting with anybody who would want to, or schedule a session with anybody who would like to continue the conversation another day. Sorry, just typing at the same time, can't do two things at once.
Thank you, Sophie, for hosting as well. I think it's been a really good meeting. Ended the day quite well. I've had quite a good input, and this has all been put on Facebook for quite a few pages. So hopefully you'll get some contacts sent over to you as well to obviously increase awareness and get more people on board as well for future meetings or to collaborate with another forum potentially.
Well, thank you to Rise for giving us the platform for today. It's been a really useful conversation, and thank you to all of you for getting involved. It's been a really helpful and informative afternoon. Thank you.